Apple's first foldable iPhone might finally be on the horizon, and if the latest leaks and reports are even close to accurate, the next few months could be some of the most confusing, most exciting, and most important in iPhone history. Because here's the big question. Will Apple unveil the foldable iPhone alongside the iPhone 18 Pro at its usual September event? Or are we looking at a delayed launch, limited supply, and a much tighter production timeline than anyone expected? Let's break down everything being reported right now, the conflicting timelines, the supply chain signals, and what it could mean for the launch window, the name, and the availability of Apple's first folding iPhone. First, the context. Apple is expected to keep its traditional rhythm for the iPhone 18 Pro, which typically means a major September launch event. That part is widely seen as business as usual. But the foldable iPhone, that's where the rumors split hard. Some reports suggest the foldable iPhone, often rumored to be called iPhone Fold, and in some circles even iPhone Ultra, could appear near the same September window. Others claim it's coming, later than the Pro models, either because Apple wants more time to refine the hardware or because production simply isn't ready. And that difference matters because Apple doesn't just launch products, they orchestrate massive global supply operations. If a product isn't ready at scale, Apple has historically chosen one of two paths: delay it or announce it anyway and ship later with very limited stock. Now, one of the most closely watched voices in Apple leaks is Bloomberg's Mark Gurman. In an online discussion, Gurman suggested the foldable iPhone would arrive later than the Pro models, saying there's no doubt it would come a little bit later than the Pro phones. That statement alone fueled a wave of speculation. Was the foldable iPhone slipping beyond September? Was it shifting to a later fall window? Or was it moving into an entirely different year? Then came another report, this time from Nikki, suggesting some form of delay. And when that report was interpreted by parts of the market as meaning a push as far as 2027, the reaction wasn't just tech commentary. Apple stock reportedly took a noticeable hit. That's how sensitive this rumor cycle is. One headline implying a multi-year delay, and suddenly investors and fans are both recalculating what Apple's foldable strategy even is. But then the narrative shifted again, because Gurman returned to the topic and pushed back on the panic. According to his follow-up reporting, the fears triggered by that interpretation were overblown. And here's the key part. He indicated Apple was still on track to announce the foldable iPhone in early September, right in line with the typical iPhone event window. Even more interesting, he suggested that while supply could be limited, the plan was to start selling the foldable iPhone either alongside the new Pro models or very soon after. So if you're tracking the rumor timeline, at this point it sounds like announcement, early September sales, at or near the same time as the Pro lineup, but limited availability at first. That sounds plausible, especially for a first-generation foldable, where Apple would likely prioritize quality control, high margins, and controlled rollout over flooding the market. But then another report arrived, and it complicated the story again. DigiTimes published a report claiming Apple's foldable iPhone is facing a production delay, but that a launch is still in sight. And the detail that matters here is the production schedule. The report suggested mass production had been expected to start in June, but may now be pushed to early August. Think about what that implies. If mass production begins in early August, and Apple wants to announce in September, that leaves a much shorter window than usual to build inventory, manage component yields, and ship units into global distribution channels before day one sales begin. In other words, even if the foldable iPhone is still set for a September announcement, the supply might be tight, really tight, and that aligns with what multiple reports have hinted at: compressed schedules, potential shortages, and a first-wave launch that could feel more like a controlled release than a mainstream iPhone rollout. But DigiTimes also reportedly emphasized that despite the tighter timeline, Apple is still aiming for a 2026 release window. And yes, this is where the rumor cycle can get messy, because depending on how you interpret release, some people mean announce, some mean ship, and some mean widely available in stores. So the practical takeaway is this: Apple may still unveil the foldable iPhone around its September event timeframe, but the actual on-sale timeline and real-world availability could vary dramatically, especially if production ramps later than planned. Now, let's talk about what this means in reality for you. Whether you're an iPhone upgrader, a foldable fan, or someone waiting to see if Apple can finally make a foldable phone that feels truly premium. If Apple announces a foldable iPhone in September and opens pre-orders quickly, expect one major thing: limited supply at launch. That could mean pre-orders. Sell out fast. It could mean long shipping estimates. It could mean certain storage tiers or colors are harder to get. And it could mean the foldable iPhone is effectively available, but only for early buyers who act immediately, or who get lucky. Apple has done this before. Not always, but enough times that it's part of the pattern. When a product is new, complex, or yield-sensitive, early supply can be a bottleneck. Foldables, by nature, involve harder engineering challenges: hinge durability, crease control, display yield, and reliability testing at scale. And if Apple is pushing for its usual standards, tight tolerances, long-term durability, and premium fit and finish, that could explain why production timing is so important. Because for Apple, a foldable iPhone can't just be another foldable. It has to feel like the foldable phone, something that makes people stop comparing it to other brands and start comparing other brands to it. That's also why the name rumor is interesting. Some believe it will simply be called iPhone Fold, which is clean, searchable, and straightforward. Exactly the kind of naming Apple might choose for a new category. But others suggest Apple could position it even higher, possibly using an Ultra label, like iPhone Ultra, to signal that this isn't just a different shape, but a top-tier, no-compromise flagship. If Apple goes that route, it would likely mean a very high price point, a premium materials approach, clear separation from the standard iPhone lineup, and potentially a new Halo product that sits above the Pro Max. And if supply is limited, that Ultra positioning becomes even easier because it frames scarcity as exclusivity, not inconvenience. Now, zooming back out, why are the reports so mixed? Because with Apple, timelines can be fluid right up until the last moment, especially for brand new hardware categories. Different parts of the supply chain can be ready at different times. Different analysts can hear different versions of the plan. And Apple can change strategy based on yield rates, testing outcomes, or even competitive pressure.